Right now at 10, a new effort to control feral cats starts with a new kind of count.
It is really the first of its kind, and it's groundbreaking.
A cartoon figure on a campaign website spurs claims of anti-Semitism.
To use that kind of a meme is totally unacceptable.
Nearly 36 state buildings are getting security upgrades, how much they're costing, and who's paying for it all.
A year after this massive traffic jam, a new lawsuit says a federal agency should pay up. A molecule in a Hawaii coral species could be the key to a medical breakthrough.
Evidence is built over the last 10 years.
And as we head into the weekend, the winds will be picking up. A fire weather watch is up for all leeward neighborhoods.
This is Hawaii News Now at 10.
And we start tonight with a new effort to count cats. But that's just the beginning. Our Ben Gutierrez shows us how the end goal is to save native species.
We've all seen feral cats on Oahu and around the neighbor islands, but exactly how many of them are there? There are estimates, but those estimates are likely wrong.
It's estimated that we have 40,000 feral cats here on Maui, but it's really based kind of a finger in the air estimate.
To get a more accurate number, the Maui Humane Society is starting an island-wide survey next month using tools developed by animal welfare groups and conservation scientists in Washington, D.C.
It also involves house surveys, it involves transect surveys, and it involves actually placing cameras in areas throughout the island.
Field cameras will be set up near known colonies. Volunteers will also do manual counts. The effort is expected to take 4 months. On Oahu, the feral cat population is said to top more than 300,000. The Hawaiian Humane Society has just completed its cat count at 15 locations and is awaiting the numbers.
We're going to find out the hot spots of where there's a high concentration of free-roaming cats, and we're going to be able to target those areas to help reduce those populations.
The DLNR says cats are one of the most devastating predators of Hawaii's wildlife. Besides eating native birds and insects, their feces carry the parasite toxoplasmosis, known to kill mock seals and sicken humans.
Over time, we're hoping to work with our conservation partners. If there's a high population free-roaming cat area, near some wildlife that they shouldn't be, we can start focusing our efforts there.
That means more focused TNR, trapping, neutering, and releasing feral cats. It's a compromise for cat lovers who've protested past plans to cull the population.
I think it'll also help us in understanding where spay and neuter is needed. The TNR program is so vital to managing humanely the cat populations.
Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
Honolulu police say they've arrested a man caught on surveillance camera beating another driver in Laie last week, Tuesday. Police booked the 28-year-old suspect today for assault, but did not release his name. The victim's daughter posted this video online. She told us her 70-year-old father scolded the man for almost crashing into him. Then the man punched him repeatedly. New at 10, our first look at the damage from a burglary at the Salvation Army in Kona. Police are still searching for the thief who broke in and stole about $1,000 worth of school supplies and food. The group tells us they used a crowbar to get inside the building on Kalani Street. And I apologize, the images of the damage did not make it into this story. If you'd like to make a donation to offset the loss, head to kona.salvationarmy.org. Broken security cameras at state buildings are being replaced with high-tech surveillance equipment. Our Lynn Kawano explains how the project ended up costing 10 times more than first planned.
Pre-COVID, the security upgrades were going to cost $1.5 million in state funds. During COVID, the project expanded to $15 million, but it will be mostly paid for using federal funds. Security upgrades were already in the works at the Capitol ahead of COVID-19. Motion-activated cameras monitor 24/7 that record activities in and around the facility and Washington Place.
That's the big bus over there.
But during the pandemic, vandals struck other buildings.
Damaging state property, throwing stones at windows, setting fires to doors and things of that nature. Public safety as well as our employee safety. That's been a great concern.
31 state offices are now also getting the technology. The Labor Department, Health Department, Attorney General's office included. All 225 cameras will tap into the same system, monitored from a central location.
If there's a situation after hours that occurs, it'll sound an alarm, and an alarm will then alert the dispatch unit to take a harder look at it, and if need be, take action on it and dispatch the sheriffs on duty. The state sheriffs are responsible for state properties. However, we have the cooperation of HPD and the police to dispatch them as well if need be.
It will take at least a year for the completion of all the security upgrades. At the Capitol, I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
2 men who helped former Kauai Council member Arthur Brune run a drug ring have been sentenced to prison. Orlando Manguche acted as Brune's security. A federal judge sentenced him to 44 months for a weapons charge. And Stephen Keli'ikuli got 41 months after he pleaded guilty to drug trafficking charges. Brune got a 20-year sentence in May and is awaiting transfer to a federal prison on the mainland. New tonight, the Honolulu Board of Water Supply is suing the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers over a water main break that shut down the Moanalua Freeway last summer. The board says the agency's contractor drilled into the pipe near the Fort Shafter exit, but then refused to pay for the repairs, which totaled about $850,000. The board is seeking reimbursement plus attorney's fees. Meantime, BWS says it likely will not need to issue a mandatory water restriction for the rest of the summer. The board says although water use increased from May to June, overall our consumption is down 5% compared to last year. Democratic candidate for governor Kai Kahele is being called on to apologize for a cartoon on his campaign website. Rick Dasog has a closer look.
The cartoon is part of a series of cartoons on Kai Kahele's campaign Instagram page, featuring a little green man which critics say resembles Adolf Hitler, with the caption, "Mr. Release Your Records."
To use that kind of a meme is totally unacceptable. It's anti-Semitic and has no place in Hawaii or anywhere in the country.
The caption, "Release Your Records," mimics Congressman Kai Kahele's demand during the gubernatorial debate and in a press conference Wednesday that Green should disclose financial records of his medical services company. Kahele says complaints about the meme are an effort to distract voters from that issue. The caricature is part of a trend on social media in which so-called Mr. Min cartoons are reposted by users with new language. But given the history of Jews being forced to show their papers in Nazi Germany, some say that Kahele's use of the meme is offensive, especially when it's used against a Jewish opponent.
You can't make light, and no one should use it or even in jest or anything. Like I said before, Hitler and the Nazis were the greatest murderers in the history of mankind.
In a statement, Kahele's campaign said, quote, "Neither the original meme photo as it exists nor our usage of the meme intends to harbor any hateful speech, expression, or message based on race, ethnicity, or religious affiliation." Green's campaign had no immediate comment. Green's father is Jewish and his mother was raised as a Christian, and several of his aunts and uncles are Holocaust survivors. This is not the first time Green has been attacked with anti-Semitic messages. This poster was placed outside of his downtown home during one of the many anti-vaccination rallies.
There's no words that can express the hurt. There's still many Holocaust survivors are alive today, and surely children of Holocaust survivors living here in Hawaii.
Rick Dasog, Hawaii News Now.
In our job interview series, Republican candidate for governor Heidi Sunioshi told us Hawaii's airports should limit planes coming to Hawaii to curb over tourism. She also wants to consider a moratorium on luxury developments, and she said she does not have an opinion on the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
What is your opinion of Donald Trump? Do you believe that he should be prosecuted for the insurrection, and do you believe that the election was stolen and he did the right thing?
I think there's definitely, as things unfold, there's so much information on both sides of that issue, and there's so much opinions on both sides of that issue. I do think there's definitely issues with our voting system. I think we have to just wait and see how everything plays out. I don't have an opinion as far as the insurrection. I think that's a sensationalized situation that many people have opinions on about how it started.
Tsuneo also questioned the security of Hawaii's election. You can watch her full 1-hour interview on hawaiinewsnow.com. All right, we're heading into an especially dry weekend, and that may be a concern for firefighters. Jen?
We're expecting some big changes over the weekend. Today we saw light winds and higher humidity levels, but that's going to be quite a contrast from Sunday, where a drier air mass will be taking over. That's why there is a fire weather watch up starting Sunday morning. Dry vegetation, low relative humidity, and windy conditions. And this is the concern for us. Winds 15 to 25, gusts up to 30, and relative humidity at 45% in the afternoon hours. The brush already really dry, and if a fire does start, the concern will be the winds can potentially spread it pretty quickly, so make sure to do your part. We are expecting some changes into the new work week. I'll take a deeper look at that coming up soon.
A food truck that's been bugging its neighbors goes up in flames.
And I suspect we'll see additional cases and more cases going up.
Schools brace for rising COVID counts as kids take off those masks. Plus, potty talk from the City Parks Department, an unusual request for restroom users after a short break. A red placard to the Lahaina Fish Company on Front Street after inspectors found roaches in the kitchen, storage space, and downstairs bar. The eatery was cited for pests, food debris, and grease accumulation. A follow-up inspection is scheduled for Monday. HFD is still investigating what caused a fire last night at a food truck that's been triggering complaints near Kapi'olani Park. Allah's Mediterranean Kitchen is right across from Waikiki Elementary, in a place that makes it difficult for people to turn into the school. No one was hurt, but the truck was gutted. Universal masking is no longer mandated in Hawaii's public schools, but there are protocols for COVID outbreaks.
People who are sick and diagnosed with COVID still need to isolate, and the isolation recommendations have not changed. So that's still 5 days at home and returning with a mask for days 6 to 10. For exposures that happen in school, so for instance, maybe there's a case in a classroom and that child is sent home, but other people in the classroom may have been exposed, we are not recommending quarantining all the other kids in the class at this point.
That said, doctors strongly encourage kids and educators to wear a mask, even though it's not required. The state's been reporting about 500 confirmed cases a day, with an unconfirmed count more like 2,000 to 3,000 a day. The health department also says nearly 90% of our recent COVID-related deaths are people over 50, but less than a third of that age group has gotten their second booster shot. If you are heading to a city park on Oahu, don't forget your toilet paper. The Parks Department says supply chain issues are causing a shortage, so deliveries of industrial TP have been inconsistent. And one more thing, the city reminds park users not to use flushable wipes, paper towels, or clothing to take care of business.
We see that quite often, unfortunately, where people use these other objects to clean themselves and then flush it down the toilet. It clogs the toilets, and then we have to close the comfort station down until we can repair it. And that's really what we want to avoid the most, is closing our bathroom facilities, because either they're clogged, unavailable, broken, or there's no toilet paper in them.
The city maintains more than 200 bathrooms across Oahu.
All right, we gotta start driving, come on!
Speed demons from the mainland finish a sprint across the country right here in Hawaii. But first, the westernmost state park in the U.S. is reopening for overnight campers. But watch out for monk seals next to 10.
Happy Aloha Friday, everyone. We're tracking Hurricane Frank over the eastern Pacific. This eventually will become swell energy. And remember Georgette. It is a tropical storm still, but it will eventually run into what's left of Hurricane Frank. It's going to become a Category 2 hurricane pretty quickly and then dissipate as it moves into cooler waters. But the concern for us, Not a big threat to land. We will see some swell energy on the way, which surfers will likely welcome in the picture sometime on Wednesday. So as we take a closer look at the surf report on north-facing shores 0 to 2 on the west side, 3 to 5, 5 to 7 on town side, and 2 to 4 on east-facing shores. And the big story this weekend will be the strong trade winds. In fact, we have a fire weather watch up for all leeward neighborhoods starting on Sunday due to dry brush, limited rain, and gusty winds up to 25 miles per hour. The spread on Sunday for leeward neighborhoods about 85 to 91 degrees. The winds up to even 30 miles per hour. Relative humidity dropping to 45%. We will see elevated winds into next week as well for the first days of school, looking like it's going to be windy at 10 to 20 miles per hour. About 79 to 88 degrees, breezy trade winds at times, and then we'll really see a uptick in our winds and also just a few showers here and there during the nighttime hours. But then you can see for the first day of school on Monday for all the KHON looking pretty good, but gusty trade winds at 15 to 25. Back to slower trade winds sometime Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wishing you blue skies and much aloha. Have a great weekend.
All right, thank you, Jan. On Kauai, Polihale State Park will reopen to overnight camping next month. The state started closing the park in 2020, citing the pandemic and vandalism. DLNR says since the shutdown, 2 monk seal pups have been born there, and one is still there, nursing with its mom. Polihale reservations will be available online starting August 1st, and overnight camping begins on the 14th. A coral found off Oahu could help stroke patients. A look at the science next.
There's just a lot of ground to cover.
And millions of years of mysteries to uncover. Where are scientists mapping the ocean floor? The Nautilus exploration ship are back home from Johnston Atoll, about 800 miles southwest of Hawaii. They were on the hunt for unknown species and gathered the first images of the area's ocean floor, about 12,000 feet below the surface.
About 1.5 metro New York. So 1.5 of the biggest city in the US is what we mapped and covered. But there is a ton of mapping left to do. If you think about Johnston Atoll is the center of the monument, and there's 200 nautical miles in every direction around Johnston of deep ocean that's protected by this place. There's just a lot of ground to cover.
The Nautilus crew discovered pieces of fossilized whale skull that could date back millions of years. Researchers are targeting a return trip next year. A coral found off Oahu shorelines may be instrumental in helping stroke patients. Jim Mendoza explains the science.
This soft coral that grows only in Hawaii may be able to help people who have suffered from a stroke. The coral produces a molecule called lysinosin A. Hawaii Pacific University chemistry professor David Horgan says that molecule may be able to stop a harmful protein that damages the brain cells of stroke patients.
In the context of stroke, the overactivity of that protein causes brain cells, normal brain cells, to die.
Every 2 seconds, someone somewhere in the world experiences a stroke.
The protein that attacks brain cells after a stroke is called TRPM7. Tests on mice show lysinosin A inhibits its activity.
Evidence is built over the last 10 years.
The coral is found in shallow water on the North Shore and off Oahu's windward side. HPU senior Olivia Honecker is helping Horgan with the lab work. She just received a $3,000 research grant to study how the coral's molecule binds to the TRPM7 protein.
So we take the coral and we grind it up and do a couple of different extractions with some different reagents to get the molecule out.
Horgan says the soft coral's molecule holds even more promise. It may also be able to block the movement of cancer cells.
We're particularly interested in breast cancer and in a type of brain cancer.
HPU is seeking funding from the National Institutes of Health to develop a new drug based on the coral's lysinosin A molecule.
It seems very likely that using a drug that will block that channel will have a positive effect or positive outcome.
Horgan says the molecule may also be of use in cases involving traumatic brain injury and oxygen deprivation in newborns. HPU is collaborating with the Queen's Medical Center, Baylor University, and the University of Toronto on the coral study. I'm Jim Mendoza for Hawaii News Now.
So we'd like to
give them a big round of applause. So, congratulations.
How fast did a group of friends make it through every state in the country? Next to 10. And Jack Johnson jamming in Waikiki, his long-awaited return next at 10. Familiar tunes back in Waikiki for the first time since 2017. Jack Johnson soft rock the shell tonight. He'll be back tomorrow with Paula Funga and Tavana. We just checked and it appears there are tickets still available for tomorrow from about $200 on up. But if you can't make it in person, you can buy a link to a live stream. Look for more on that at hawaiinewsnow.com. Finally tonight, 5 days and 16 hours. That was the time to beat for three friends trying to set a record for a road trip to all 50 states. As our Mark Carpenter shows us, they ended up right here in Hawaii.
All right, we gotta start driving, come on!
That's Peter McConville. The 21-year-old from Austin, Texas is known for his online gaming channel, but recently he replaced his controller for a steering wheel. Joined by his two friends, Pasha and Abdul, the trio packed into a Ford Escape, setting out to visit every U.S. state in the fastest time possible.
So one person sleeps, one person films, and make sure the driver doesn't go to sleep, and then of course someone drives.
The clock began ticking in Vermont.
Start the timer! Let's go, let's go!
Pit stops had to be chosen wisely. Learning early on, even the drive-through could cost them their record.
We've been sitting in this line for like 7 minutes. It's not really moving at all.
Dude, this is gonna take like 15 minutes.
I think we can't afford to like just stop for food so much.
You basically have to eat gas station food. You have to get it while we're filling up the car. Like, that's the only thing we can do to eat.
Sightseeing was scarce, and with a 30-minute stop in Times Square, see if anyone believed they could accomplish their goal.
We're trying to visit all 50 states in 5 days. Do you think it's possible? No.
You guys can do it. Put your mind to it.
You guys got this.
With mixed reactions, the race resumes. Basic necessities had to be sacrificed, pushing off their first shower until 28 states in.
So we timed it, and all in, it was about 45 minutes. And we were like, I don't know if we can shower again. So we actually only showered one time.
Freshened up and averaging 85 miles an hour, police take notice in New Mexico.
The reason I pulled you over is you're going 92 and a 75.
With a $120 speeding citation in hand, the journey continues to Seattle, where their flight to Alaska awaits.
Also, our flight's overbooked, so we actually could have like bumped off if we didn't show up earlier. See, technically going to a state doesn't count unless you leave the airport, so that's why you have to step outside.
49 down, 1 to go. The boys board their flight to Hawaii, but can't escape some mid-air speed bumps.
Yeah, we got delayed not once, but twice.
Despite the delays, finally touchdown after more than 12,000 miles on the road and in the air. 133 hours and 10 minutes later, Peter and his friends beat the record with 3 hours to spare. A mission that builds an appetite only local food could satisfy.
We went to this Hawaiian spot, dropped like $200 on food for like the three of us. We literally ordered everything.
And after a whirlwind trip, Peter says he'll be back to the islands, but plans to take his time.
I want to go there on like a completely like, this is like 100% like personal vacation, just kind of like relax. I haven't been able to actually do anything like that, but like after going there, I was like, I 100% need to go back.
Mark Carpenter, Hawaii News Now.
All right, that's a great story. I gotta say, the one thing that stuck out to me is a $120 speeding ticket for going 92 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure I paid a lot more than that for going like 60. Wow. All right, what's up, Jen?
And for a last look at weather, we are going to be contending with gusty trade winds. A fire weather watch is up for Sunday. Into next week, we're talking about elevated winds Monday into Tuesday. And then we will be seeing classic trade winds Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. To all the kids out there, enjoy the last weekend of summer before school starts.
Oh, that's right. Live it up, everybody, as we press the little button to make the live cam go. That's just about the same thing, still or not. Happy Aloha Friday. Good night.